Hello everyone, welcome to episode 41 of By the Drip, where we deep dive into coffee, entrepreneurship, and the incredible people shaping our industry. And today, we're joined by Kirk Pearson, founder of Project Zero Coffee, whose journey in coffee has been anything but ordinary. From washing dishes in a cafe to working as a milkman, Kirk's experiences have shaped his unique perspective on coffee. In this episode, we discuss the evolution of coffee culture, the importance of milk quality, and how COVID-19 forced him to rethink his business. Kirk also opens up about the emotional moments that shaped his path, including how the passing of his mother inspired him to chase his dreams. And to wrap it all up, Kirk shares some breaking news about his coffee podcast, It's Just Coffee. So you got to listen to the end. Okay, let's jump into episode 41. Let's go.
What's up, party people and coffee lovers? We are back with Kirk Pearson, none other than Kirk Pearson of Project Zero Coffee, based in Melbourne, Australia. Good day, mate.
What's up?
What's up?
What's up? David, you're supposed to do it.
Dave, you got to
No.
do it too, man.
No.
Otherwise, we can't properly start the podcast.
No, I'm not doing
We're
it.
gonna have to re-roll it.
We're keeping this professional, boys. Come on.
All right. Well, no, thank you for having me on. I feel very welcome.
Kirk, we're stoked to have you on. Dave and I have had a little bit of a hiatus after we recorded a podcast in Dubai that was a little bit traumatizing. Dave and I haven't been able to do any podcasts, any recordings the last couple of weeks. But hey, man, we're really glad to be back. Really grateful you are the next episode. I believe this is episode 41. Dave, does that sound right?
42, buddy.
42. Unbelievable. 42, Kirk.
Well, thanks for having me on. I love David's in like his storeroom or something, but you've got like you're in Panama. The setting's good. There's like a dust storm going on behind you. It's pretty awesome, and you've tactically positioned yourself light-wise so no one can see that you've got pink eye, but you've got pink eye. And I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, thank you for.
I wanted to make sure everyone knows that. So,
if you want to just quickly do the zoom in here, there's
No,
a little bit.
Don't do it. It's not worth
Yeah,
it.
don't do it. It's not infectious, but it does hurt both emotionally and physically. Thank you for bringing it up to all the watchers.
Well, we were
for
trying to
this
speculate. You had a unfortunate incident with some contact lenses, or you just had a really aggressive approach to negotiating pricing in Panama. I'm not sure which one it is, but either way, I wish you good health.
You know what? My 3:00 meeting just showed up. I think I gotta go.
Fair enough.
No, I've been having issues with contact lenses or my contact case. I don't know what it is, but this is the third time it's happened to me in 4 weeks, and I've been wearing glasses for the majority of the last 4 weeks because this is not a fun experience, man. You know, it's not pink eye. It's just like a scratchy, itchy. I might have a scratched cornea.
Sure.
I've scratched my cornea once upon a time, and I was ridiculed in grade school. People called me Redbeard because I had to wear an eye patch. And the ridiculous part is I was 12 and didn't have a beard. It was just...
In fairness to you, you're like a more handsome Ron Weasley. And like... In Australia, it's like it's merciless being redheaded because we call redhead rangers for orangutan. So everyone,
orangutan, yeah, I've heard it.
I would not want to be a redhead growing up in Australia. Like it's probably the worst place you could be a redhead.
Kirk, we're bringing you back every episode just to roast Cole. You can come in 2 minutes, just roast him, and then beam out.
But did you know? So my girlfriend's studying to be a dentist. So she's in her last year of dentistry. So anesthesia and pain medication it's like redheads have gingers have resistance to it. So like it requires more.
We don't
dosage.
use the G word on the show. Thanks, Kirk.
Okay, thanks, Copper Cab. So you have to use more on people that are redheaded. So fun fact.
Yeah, red-haired people have a higher pain tolerance is supposedly what happens.
I
I'm
thought
not. I'm
I
not
thought
sure
you
why.
guys were naturally addicted to orange pop as well. Like that's in your DNA that you have to drink orange pop at least once a week.
Yeah, not true. But Dave has spread that rumor deep enough that people have, out of the blue, spontaneously delivered
See,
me orange pop.
see, I was just outlining the plight of people like Cole. You're just like flat out roasting him, and frankly, David, I don't stand for that. So yeah, let's just I'll just outline that
Okay,
moment
let's
right now.
bring it back on track here, boys. I've been verbally and emotionally abused enough in this session and enough this week. Frankly, that was the cherry on top. I appreciate it. Kirk, welcome to the show. Dave's glad to have you here. I'm still questioning it. Tell us, my man, a little bit about your coffee journey. How did you get into the coffee space? That's where we usually like to start.
Yeah, for sure. So I
And
started
depending
as
on you on how you answer, it might be how we end too.
I like this. I like this. Well, I mean, thanks for having me on. But I started out as my journey into coffee was really kind of unusual. It's not like I just fell in love with it instantly. I'm 30 years old now. I had my first coffee when I was 20 years old. And basically, I was studying journalism at university in Melbourne and needed a job to sort of get me through. So I was washing dishes at a cafe, and so I was really good at it. And I think my boss noted that the one thing he liked about me is that I rocked up on time. I arrived on time every day, and I arrived to all my shifts. Where all the baristas were working at the university, and their punctuality was terrible. They just often didn't show up, or they were really late or hungover. So this guy, just the owner, had had enough, and so he said, "Can I teach you how to make coffee?" And so I was like, "Sure." Beats washing dishes. And so I started doing it. But Melbourne's like got a really high standard for specialty coffee, and so the first few weeks that I was making coffee, basically a customer would walk in, see that I was making coffee, and walk out. so,
Oh,
so
no way.
yeah, no, it's really it really sucked. And so like I had to try and get better at making the coffee, but I thought to myself, oh, geez, like I need to somehow get better. So I asked one of the other baristas that worked there, what do you do? And she said, oh, you should read Barista Hustle. And so I typed in Barista Hustle, and I saw Matt Perger's face appear, and I started reading all of it. And I was like, God, this guy's using mathematics and everything. And so I went to St. Ali not long after, and I tried some of the coffee. And back then, a guy called Ben Morrow worked there. So he now owns Manhattan Coffee Roasters in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And I tried a coffee that he made, and it was one of those ones where you drink it and then the shooting star meme kind of begins, where it's like "Dun, dun, dun," and I just like transitioned to another dimension. I was like, I don't know how coffee can be this good. And then not long after, I went to places like Axel and Co Black, and I was really just trying all these coffees, and I thought, I need to learn how to make coffee this good. So long story short, I harassed St. Ali for a job for, it must have been a year, to be honest. I just non-stop applied, harassed, asked all the people, went there on my days off, because at the time that was the place where you wanted to work in Melbourne, and it was kind of like the most coveted job. If you worked there, I think people in the industry kind of recognized you as like, all right, you're a big dog if you get a spot there. And so I did. And then eventually, long story short, I got a job there. Did a few years there and I got really fascinated by a lot of higher end coffees. So reserve coffees, I think we call it now. The type of stuff that Cole will only deal with. And I started a brand called Sub-Zero Coffee, where basically we froze coffee in individual portions and had pop-ups selling it. In Melbourne, we had some in Sydney, and we had some international ones booked, but then COVID hit, and then that kind of didn't work out because of COVID. So now I took a few years off and then came back with my business partner and started Project Zero Coffee. And I'm glad to report, guys, it's going well.
Nice, man. Great. I'm glad to hear it's going well. You've had quite the journey. There's a spot you're missing that I want to zoom in on. Can I point one other piece out?
Go on.
I'd like to start the podcast by talking about your years as the milkman. Because Kirk, that's who I met. That was the first Kirk that I met. It was Kirk the milkman Pearson, the fiercest rebounder in all of the league.
Putting up triple doubles all the time.
You see how I just turned that into a cool sounding athlete?
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that, and thank you. But I did spend some time as a milkman, so to be honest, I got really disenchanted with coffee and thought I never want to do this again. And so I moved back to Sydney for a little bit, and I'd always had a good relationship with a company called Riverina Fresh. So they produce some of the world's best milk here in Australia. Obviously, I think 3 world barista champions have used it now, maybe more. Anthony, Sasha, I can't remember who else, but yeah, basically, so they needed a sales executive in Sydney. So coming off a situation where I was like just losing money hand over fist, they offered me a job where it's like good salary, a car, and I could stay living where I was on the beach. And I was just like, done. I'll do this. So I started selling milk just as a sales rep, really. So you can imagine any sales rep for any company. That was me, but milk edition. But obviously, I had a really good contact base through coffee, which is the main clientele. So I was just selling milk to people. And I think where you and I first met in person was at the World Barista Championship in Melbourne in 2022, where I still work for them. And that was one of the best jobs I've ever had, to be honest. And I think working in sales, not quite in coffee, but selling to coffee and having a whole bunch of other industries that you supply to, the contacts that you make if you decide to keep them and if you have a crack, it's really assisted me to this day. And obviously it wasn't hard to sell because it's such a good product, but I was a milkman and the people's milkman and the best milkman that it ever is or was. So
let's go, baby.
Defensive player of the year, 3 years running.
What should
I didn't have a good offensive game.
What should a barista look for in like a high quality milk? What is like, they're reading the side of the label there. What's important?
I think that it's fat percentage is probably number one, I would say. So I think theirs is like 3.5 for their standard full cream, or for their plus, it's like 3.9 or something like that. But it's kind of hard to tell off a label, if I'm honest, because there's some countries, in having traveled recently, there's some countries that just have good milk and there's some that don't. The feed is one of the best things that can happen, or that can produce good milk. So, for example, like if you've ever watched Matt Perger's routine, he was talking about the grass that a certain cow would eat and how that would affect the digestive system and impact the sweetness of the milk. We in Australia, we're susceptible to drought. For example, so about 5 or 6 years ago, you could notice when a cow's diet would change. So if they switched from grass feeding to grain feeding, the grain would actually produce like fattier milk, and you could taste it like there would be almost like a yogurt in the milk. So I think it's not really reading the side of the labels doesn't tell the whole story. I think knowing what they're eating and how they're being treated is effectively probably the best way of knowing what a good milk is. And then you can tell in the cup as well. It's like sweeter, more dessert-like, more cake-like. The feed is probably the number one thing to it, in my opinion.
I got one more milk question. What do you think of these new, especially in competition, we're constructing these kind of new milks with, blending in almond or soy or whatever else is out there. What are your thoughts on that as a milk purist?
To be honest, I like that better than freeze distilling, because I'm I hate freeze distilling milk. I mean, maybe that's a hot take straight off the press, but to me, I'm not like a big dairy guy in terms of my consumption. The only time I actually drink milk is with coffee. So, but when you freeze distill it, it just becomes like almost cheesy to me, and that I don't enjoy. But I've had a few of these like hybrid milks, I guess you'd say. I call it Toyota Prius milk. I call it a Prius.
Okay.
Um, so because it's a hybrid. But I tried Jack's because he did Jack Simpson. He did some with coconut and cryo desiccating milk, and that was really interesting. Probably a bit too much for me. And then actually just recently in Dubai, I actually I actually came over with some milk to Dubai for a competitor to use, and he blended it with some macadamia milk, I think, and used it with Kai Jansen's coffees. And that was one of the top three milk drinks I've ever had. So I'm pro Toyota Prius milk, and it's pretty delicious, provided you do it correctly. It can go pretty haywire pretty quickly, but if you finesse it, great. And I think where to in the future, maybe making sure that you declare everything that's in a mixed milk for allergen purposes and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm all for it.
I thought you'd be an anti-seed oil guy since you're part of the dairy industry.
The dairy
Selling
mafia.
out to big dairy.
Well, I mean, it makes some pretty good drinks, but the alternative milk industry is really, I feel like, misunderstood. It gets like in Australia, they're saying that there needs to be more competition within the dairy alternative milk industry, which I don't think is true. There's so much competition, and there's so many brands that pop up that just die after a few years. And one of the things that we just uncovered recently is that a lot of alternative milk bottles can't actually be recycled, at least here in Australia, whereas the milk bottles can. So the dairy industry, obviously they're higher emissions producers, but they can kind of do some things better than the alternative milk industry. So
Interesting.
riddle me that.
Yeah, interesting. I don't have a riddle you that for that. I don't, on the whole emissions thing, the green front. I think a lot of that. I'm challenged to believe that regular dairy is that much worse for the world when alternative milks are not locally produced everywhere they're consumed. And the bulk of them are being shipped over the ocean in raw product, getting refined, go through the factory and then get shipped back over the ocean to the consumer. And so I have a tough part on the green formulaic approach to measuring the emissions of dairy, which is produced, right down the road here and then consumed right over here in the coffee shop most
Well,
of
if you think
the
about
time.
it, if by matter of sheer numeracy, a dairy has to produce more emissions because obviously there's the methane aspect, but it has to be cows have to be milked every day. That milk has to be shifted every day with a truck. It has to be refrigerated constantly and then distributed and refrigerated more. So there's on top of the methane, then there's obviously far more emissions that come with dairy milk. That being said, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, and nor do I think it should. I think they'll continue to innovate in that space. And I was reading about a startup in Australia. So we have a government body called the CSIRO, which basically it's like the government science body. But they're developing an algae it's like a supplement that'll be fed to cows that would reduce the methane in a cow's diet. And it's called, I think, Asparagopsis. And honestly, I'm really excited for the amount of innovation that can happen in that space because we'll be able to, if you couple that, reduce the methane with electric trucks, for example, and renewable energy powering fridges,
Right. Game changer.
they're going to be able to reduce the emissions in the future by a lot.
Yeah. No, it could be a total game changer. You mentioned you're not a big milk consumer. I'm not a big dairy consumer either, but I'm also not a big alternative milk consumer. I usually just drink my coffee black. But it's super interesting. So I'm in Panama for 4 weeks at this point, and nowhere serves fresh milk. Everything is UHT, ultra high temperature pasteurized milk. It's shelf stable, and I've been to a few coffee shops around, and everybody serves UHT milk. And
Why is that?
for anybody,
Look, surely there's like really good farming, there's capability for great dairy farming in Panama.
yeah. So the ironic part is most of the land that is coffee today was cattle, and a lot of that would be used for dairy. And where, like, I'm in Boquete, this is the spot for dairy production, and most of it happens here. The thing is, it all goes to one centralized facility, is my understanding, and all gets done in UHT process in order to remain shelf stable, because the bulk of the country is hot, it's arid, it's getting transported. They don't have refrigerated trucks. I'm making assumption that some of the supply chain is just simplified with UHT than it is with fresh products. But it's also quite disappointing going into a coffee shop and having a UHT cappuccino, knowing that there's like unbelievable milk. Like Dave was with me 2 weeks ago, and we got to try milk from Hacienda La Esmeralda. They're also a dairy producer, and their fresh, and their fresh milk is like, holy moly! I'd like to try that in a little milk beverage, but they don't sell it. They don't sell it anywhere.
It's illegal to have raw milk in Australia. I don't know what the laws are in Panama or Canada, but you should just go to Rachel Peterson's farm, squeeze the milk straight out of the tea. Yeah, make a cappuccino, and then, or just take it to. I've recently discovered Wilfred Lemastus has a few cafes in Panama City or whatever. Just take it down there. Make a few Elita Estate cappuccinos.
Next week.
Yeah,
next week.
I think the right move, if I'm going to pitch it to Rachel, would be to do it with her coffee. But I get the logic path that you're running down.
Natural milk addition. That honestly, that would be delightful. But raw. I actually served raw milk in a competition once. 5s.
Wow, yeah, really?
We served. I guess was that raw milk that we used in Boston, Dave?
No, it was just lower heat for, I don't know. There's like these thresholds. I can't remember exactly what they are, but it was
we tried to get raw milk, but this was like ice cream, melted ice cream, basically drinking it. Kirk, let's move on from milk, man. I know you're super hyper passionate about milk, but we'll save that for the milk boys and when you're on their podcast. Let's shift a little bit back into coffee. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Where do you want to start? Should we talk about Sub-Zero and the concept and a very innovative idea to take a business which I haven't really seen anywhere else in the world? There's like bits and bytes of it that I've seen similar concepts. I think, could you maybe talk a touch about Sub-Zero and then transition that into how that became Project Zero?
Sure. So basically, I just became so obsessed with those world-class quality coffees. But there's certain, even though Melbourne's viewed as this coffee mecca and like the greatest coffee city on earth by some people, it's kind of not linked with reality in a way, because everyone loves a good flat white here, but they don't like paying for an amazing pour over or amazing Panama Geisha or Colombian whatever. So my thoughts were, well, what if we just had a dedicated space where that's all you had? And so, like, I spent a heinous amount of money putting together a menu that I was really proud of. It was, you could get a Panama Geisha milk roast, you could get a Panama Geisha espresso. We had, and it was from different roasters all around the world. So at the time, it was really exciting in Melbourne when I first launched this, because it was just this whole menu where people could just go. There wasn't a coffee on there that you wouldn't enjoy, really, and one for every process too. So at the time, it was kind of, I was inspired by what Honor Coffee were doing in Sydney, because they had a frozen menu of sorts, but obviously they were restricted in the coffees they could sell because they get it all from Project Origin. But aside from them, there wasn't really anyone doing it at the time. So get like coffees from all around the world. So include farms like Elita and Esmeralda. It needs to all be married in one place. And so the pop-ups, honestly, we couldn't keep up. They were so busy. And then I think the biggest one we ever did was after the World Barista Championship, which you guys both attended. And you could order one of, I think at that site we probably did 20 coffees. People to see it as people to realize that coffee could be so much more. So I booked flights for and accommodation for me and one other person to basically go do this little Asian tour. And I spent a lot of money on it. And then I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, virus out of Wuhan made its way into the world. And then so we had a very strict approach to, I think everyone did, but Australia was probably the strictest. So our Prime Minister was one of the first to shut our borders. And when that happened, if you left, you couldn't come back. So when Scott Morrison announced that decision, I instantly lost like what was my life savings at the time. So it was a really bitter pill to swallow. But I pivoted. We had a little pop-up store in Melbourne because we had very little COVID when the world was kind of dealing with it at the start. And then so we opened up a little pop-up cafe at a suburb called St Kilda here. And the day before that was due to open, they announced a lockdown. So I was just like, I just kind of got destroyed again. I was like, it was crushing. So it was all kind of over before it really began. But in the midst of that, I kept going. We pivoted to online ordering, and we packaged these really cool, what I called, what did we call it? Like a survival pack or something. But basically, it was a whole month's worth of coffee, and they were all vacuum sealed individual doses. So every single day you had a different coffee, and it had the recipe labeled on it and everything. So it was called a care package. That's right, a care package. And so I sold a bunch of those and kept going for a little while longer. But in the midst of all that, a guy came in, and he had a coffee at where we were, and he left his wife and kids in the car for like 2 hours while I made him everything on the menu. And his family just fell asleep. And so we spoke about coffee, and he had a tech background, and he said, oh, well, I sort of work in startups, I build apps and things like that. And his name is Johan. And so he's my now business partner. And we decided that back then that we thought to ourselves, we'll one day we should work together on like a kind of a startup for takeaway coffee. And that's what Project Zero Coffee is. And I didn't really have it was a few years of kind of flirting with the idea, but my mum passed away, I think 2 years ago now, and she left me some money, and with that I was able to, when that happened a few weeks later, the dust sort of settled, and I called Johan. I was like, I think I'm ready to do this. And it was kind of like a moment in my life where I think I didn't really, this is a weird explanation, but I didn't really grieve like most people do. Like I kind of went through this process where my life will be forever changed now. And I kind of thought to myself, well, I owe it to myself and to my mum she would want me to get ahead and do whatever it is I want to do and have a real crack. And I think when I look at what I do now, it's kind of a lot of it's in her memory. And like whenever I think to myself what I'm doing, I just want to make sure that I'm honoring that. And that's how Project Zero started. It's like, it's an opportunity for me to sort of build my life and build my dream. And I think she'll be looking back on it as like, you're doing exactly what I want you to do.
Wow, man. That's
you're gonna make me cry through my pink eye here, Kirk.
I got some questions though.
Mm.
It's Johan is your business partner's name?
It is Johan, but I don't know if it's we've known each other for like 4 or 5 years now, and he introduces himself as Johan to people, but I've been calling him Johan, so I just roll with Johan.
Okay. John,
Yeah.
did his family make it? Because he left him in the car, and then you just
Yeah, they
continued
were
the story.
sleeping, and were they forever sleeping?
Yeah, they did. They did. So, and
Okay.
it's
They're still
he's got the most.
together?
They're still together. He's got the most
Okay.
patient kids. Like they're all like uber talented, and they never misbehave or anything. It's kind of like I don't know how they're so well behaved, but yes, they did.
Okay. The two customer bases. So you got a physical shop, and then you're doing
Mhm.
pop-ups with super high-end coffee. Are those customer bases overlapping, or are they separate? Is it only coffee geeks coming to Project Zero or uh, Sub Zero, and then is it everyone's coming to Project Zero?
Yes. So basically, with what we do now, I think we focus a lot on delivering really high quality takeaway coffee, and obviously there's dine in as well. But we a big part of what I want to do is have coffee kind of in every level. So it's like entry level specialty coffee, sure. We do a lot of co-fermented coffees as well. So I lean heavily into that. I know a lot of people in the industry kind of detest co-fermented coffee, but I'm all for it. Um, and so, for example, we've got like you can get a latte, then you can also get a latte with a blend called strawberry cheesecake, and right now we've got another one called Lamington. So they taste exceptional. They're like competition grade milkies, I would think. And every now and then, and we're doing this even more so, we're getting higher quality, like a 90-point reserve coffee, and we serve that as well. I've been harassing Cole for what must be like a year now for a list on Ford coffee to buy, but that's okay.
Kirk,
Maybe in
Kirk
6 years I'll get one.
literally, Kirk literally sent the note the day after I announced that Forward was going on pause, and I
Uh,
was like, we can make it happen,
Yeah,
Kirk. We can make it happen.
but no, I'm really excited for what Cole's doing now, and I'm hoping that I'll be one of his first Australian customers. But that's the next layer to our game. I think we not only want to be the entry level, we want to be also the co-fermenting level, which is very welcoming to a lot of people. But we do want to do the Panama Geisha, and I think so we're about to open a second store that'll be predominantly takeaway. But I think we want to make our first store. Obviously, it's got all those layers to it, but we'll be doing the high end specialty coffee as well. Where the freezing comes into it, I think in the future, I definitely want to do some things where it's like a box set and of like amazing coffees, and you can come to our concept stores and get a $1 billion pour over from Panama for sure. But I think we want to be specialty coffee people that kind of everyone can have a drink at, really.
and what was the mindset to do like I guess to bring in co-ferments? Because like you said, so many people in the industry, like Cole's one of those people that says, we got to go to the terroir and processing is the most important thing. And
What? I'm okay
where
with
does,
go ferments, man. Don't
okay,
put language in my mouth. This is a public
okay,
podcast.
okay.
We just got to be
Um,
we got to be transparent about it, and we can't create dialogue around it like you just did. You know what? Cut the podcast.
you know what, man? Clean up your
Cut the
act.
recording. Cut the recording. Dave and I need to have a talk.
Did Wilfred Lamaster just grow red hair and get pink eye all of a sudden, or is that? No, no. I had a really good chat with Wilfred about that when we were in Dubai. But with basically, I feel like in Melbourne, there's all in Australia really. There's all these different coffee roasters that have their blends, right? But they all effectively taste similar or the same. It's chocolate, nuts, whatever, and there's just not that much. There's just not that much variance, and like there's people that roast it better and do it better, but to me it's all the same family. But what we wanted to do is obviously in Australia it's a massive milk drinking culture, like that's been a big theme here on this podcast already. But what my mindset was is I want to give a 90-point experience without the 90-point price tag. So we charge like $5.50 for a flat white right now, which will go up soon. And for an extra dollar, you can have a strawberry cheesecake latte, which just tastes like out of this world good. And so and the idea would be that we need to have it's not just like a side quest that's on your bar that you put through the EK. We have 4 Malconic E80 grinders, which is like a massive investment for us. But basically, we can just produce it en masse now. And we've become really well known for that. And it's a big risk as well because co-ferment coffee is not cheap. But it's been honestly, it's kind of like the thing that puts bums on seats at our cafe and brings people through the door.
Are you telling customers about it though? Like, how are you selling? To me, I'm average Joe coming in. What's the experience that I'm going to upgrade for an extra $1 to this co-ferment? How are you selling that to me?
Okay, so people, like we've got it on the grinder that there's these different labels for different blends, and one of the interesting things. So, have you guys heard of Patricia Coffee in Melbourne?
Yeah.
So we're really well-known cafe. The owner came in yesterday and he said, I can smell what you're brewing from 100 meters away. Like I can smell the co-ferment coffees. And we have so many people that come in that they kind of like, they trace the trail. They smell, they pick up the aroma and they're like, what the fuck is that? And they ended up finding it at our stores. Like they come in the house, what's that smell? And we say, oh, it's these coffees. And so when someone comes in, it's kind of like a thing where one person will try it in an office, for example, and then they'll go to tell the rest of their friends and they're like, you got to try this place. And when I sell it to a customer and they're thinking about trying it, I'll literally just remove the lid off the hopper and I say, smell that. And they're like, oh my God, that smells like you're saying it kind of smells like, and then when they taste it, they're like, oh my God, that actually tastes like strawberry. Because there's a big problem in coffee where there's all these flavor notes on a bag, but very rarely do you taste it all. But with the co-ferment coffee, it's kind of hard to screw it up. So, yeah, it's so basically someone will say, oh yeah, I want to try this blend. I'll say, well, smell this. It's sugar-free. There's no syrup. It's just the coffee. They ferment it with strawberries and the coffee absorbs the flavor. So we're very transparent about it. And we sell hundreds of them a day now. And we not only do we do it for milk coffee, but we've got a cold brew that's really popular. So we have this like peach or strawberry ferment coffee that we brew as a cold brew. And we have our own special method of doing it. And it's quite warm here at the moment. We sell heaps. So it's very transparent.
Nice. I love that.
I love that too. Kirk, I want to rewind a little bit and I want to compliment you, even though you've harassed me for the majority of the time we've spent together here and in our lives. I want to compliment you on Sub-Zero, the event that we went to in Melbourne 2022.
Yeah.
For me, it was really inspiring. And I don't think I've ever said that to you. And it's taken me 42 minutes into this podcast to muster the courage to say that to you.
And he's never said it to me ever.
And really 3 years since that event. But that event to me was very inspiring. The menu that you had, you said 20 coffees, I think, just a few minutes ago here. The menu that you had, the execution that you had, the delivery, the experience, the daytime sort of party vibe that was going on, the cool grooves, the nice music, the gathering of friends. It was like, to me, I've been in the industry 15 years, and that event is, if not the top coffee event I've ever been to, it's top 3. And it was like a true celebration of top tier coffee. And anybody was welcome and anybody was available to be there and participate. And, that event for me was just so much fun. I ended up going on and trying to almost recreate it in a sense a couple of times, doing pop-up events that were inspired 100% from that day in Melbourne. I don't think I ever executed to the degree or the level or the overall just bar that you set, but I think what you put down in those events, and I assume what you're putting down in your cafe today, for me was really big. I think for the industry was really big, and I just wanted to backtrack a little bit and compliment you on that.
Well, thanks. That means a lot because, like, I've looked at you guys online for years before we even met, and looked up to you for a long time. And I think that day, that world Bristol Championship event was one of the best days of my life because all my coffee heroes came to the event. So you can imagine me serving Elita Estate Geisha, and then Wilford Jr. and Wilford Sr. rock up, and I was just like, holy shit, they're really here. Then you guys rocked up. Anthony Douglas had just won, and he rocked up, and all my coffee heroes kind of came to this event. It was the best day of my life. But I guess within the context of all that, I wish people knew how hard I worked to do these things.
To put that together.
And just how obsessed I am with coffee, and how the lengths I go to do these things are just crazy. My girlfriend's always saying to me, you work so hard and, you need to relax a little. And I probably prematurely aged myself so much because I work so hard to try and do this stuff. And to have someone like you say that, it means the world to me, because obviously I'm validated by things like that. And when people attend as well, I never did any of that for money. I did it just to push the boundaries of coffee and myself.
For the love of the game.
Yeah. And it's just I'm I really am in this for life. And, it's awesome to know that you thought that you think that, because, I want to do so much more of it in the future. And everything that I've done, everything that I do is to be able to just share that joy with people. I wish more people, my goal is one day when there's so much conflict in the world and there's so much hate in the world, that when there's a global peace summit, for example, you look at the Ukraine-Russia thing right now, there's negotiations that will go on in Saudi Arabia, I think. I want to be there making coffee for those world leaders to try and just to have some contribution of bringing people together. I know that sounds whack and bizarre, but I want to be that guy that's you have so much to live for and not fight over. And because coffee has been that mental release for me. It's saved me from so much struggle in my life. But coffee's been that one thing that's resurrected me and brought people together. And it's I don't have to feel, negativity. I want to that's the power of coffee for me. And I feel you talk about that event and those things. It's the amount of it brings people together and changes their perceptions of things. And it's that little moment to be well, shit, I've got a lot going on in my day, but at least remember what Jerry Seinfeld said recently, that viral clip that he went is when you die, at least you'll remember the good coffee you drank. And it's that's 100% true. And any of those, my literal goal one day is to be at those world events where people are deciding the future of the world and making them a damn fucking good cup of coffee, just to remind them of what they have to live for.
I like that. I think we should make a commitment right now that if you do any of the global trade shows, if you do Jakarta or Houston or Geneva or any, Milan later in the year, I think we should make a public commitment right now that you host one of those events, whether it's under the same name or the same brand or under a different style or approach. I think more people need to celebrate coffee in that capacity, in that atmosphere, and in a casual setting, not in a hyper pretentious, let me tell you everything about this cup of coffee to the point that you have no possible way of enjoying it. Right? That to me is where that event really took off. It was a celebration. It wasn't a choke me with how smart you are.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's do it. You're the one with the Panama coffee connections. We should absolutely do that. I think I would love to
let's take it to the world, baby.
Yeah, we should.
Dave, you don't look excited. Dave, you still with us, or did your internet cut out?
I'm trying to hear what he has to say, man. He's our guest. Let him talk.
No, but I agree, and I love doing shit like that. So we should. I'll be in Jakarta. So whether or not we can make it work there, I think I've got to be back the day after the event ends. But we should when we're in Panama, when I come stay at your house in Panama next year for SEA Panama, yeah, let's talk. Let's do that.
Let's do
We
it.
should we should take over Wilford's Cafe.
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know if he'll consent to that, but hey, Wilford, if you're watching, we're taking over your cafe.
No, we got to be coaching someone. We got to stay
Okay,
focused. We
and
can
Rachel,
do
we need
Jakarta.
we need some milk.
Hook us up.
We did an event in Athens, Dave. We did an event the day before World of Coffee Athens. We won the thing. Maybe it's good
Okay,
juju.
it's back on. Okay, it's
Back on. We didn't do anything in
We're good
Busan, so we don't have a pattern of it. But
Yeah. 1 year on, 1 year off.
1 year on, 1 year off. Kirk, are you roasting your own coffee? How does the roasting program work for your business?
So we actually don't roast our own coffee. So I source all of the coffee and I get it roasted by Axel Coffee Roasters in obviously based here in Australia. So I possess the capability to roast. I mean, we've got multi communes like Criteria Coffee here in Melbourne, but I think I made a business decision to sort of seek out Axel to contract roast that for me, and it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. Some people, I think, judge us for doing that, but like you think of it within the context of, all right, well, I have all this capital I don't have to outlay. I've got all this time I don't have to spend. I've got a world-class coffee roaster that roasts my coffee for me. And I can just source the green and they turn it brown and make it taste real good. Like it's too good of a deal for me to not take up. So yeah, Axel Coffee roast all of our coffee and they do a fantastic job.
Yeah,
And you opened a year ago. Oh, sorry, Cole.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, I
yeah.
think that makes a lot of sense to outsource it and stay focused on what you want to do and achieve the highest level that you can with your perspective, and leave the rest, if you can, to others. You opened a year ago. Sorry, I interrupted there.
Well, yeah, the good thing about it is, like, I mean, obviously that comes with commitments as well, because we have to sell a certain volume to make it worth their time. So if we just did like not that much coffee, then it would be a bit of a strain having a custom blend and single origins and all that sort of stuff. But thankfully we've done really well. So we do like 80 to 100 kilos of coffee now, I think, at our shop a week, which is great for a shop. We sell a lot of retail beans, which makes up a big part of that. Yeah, it's been good, and we've got another one on the way in 3 months. So,
okay, Dave and I are itching for a question. We have the same question.
Okay, go. You go. You cut me off. You go.
25-gram espressos.
Yeah.
yes. All right. So in Melbourne, I think the most popular size for a takeaway coffee is 8 ounces. And what a lot of coffee roasters or cafes do is they'll use a double shot to make up an 8-ounce coffee. So effectively, when you think of it in that context, using 20 to 22 grams to make one 8-ounce cup of coffee. I always thought that this is incredibly wasteful. And basically, with the help of people like Matt Perger, we kind of calculated extraction. And I always theoretically thought to myself, we don't need to use that much. So what we do is we actually increase our dose. So it's 25 grams of 25-gram dose, but we split the shot. So it's a single shot, and our yield is quite low. It's only 37 grams, 37 grams out. But the espresso is so concentrated that we can effectively use the single shot to make the 8-ounce coffee that is it tastes incredible. So instead of being 20 to 22 grams of coffee per cup, it's actually 12.5 grams per cup. So our usage is far lower than a lot of cafes that make the same size coffee, and it's a lot quicker to make as well. So we got a 3-group machine. Instead of having capacity for 3 cups of coffee brewing at the same time, it's 6. So we can effectively double our output. We embrace automation with the milk farmers like Uber Milk and stuff like that. So we can produce coffee that's A, less wasteful, B, tasty, and C, extremely quick.
Is that recipe for every coffee?
For every milk coffee. So we've got we dial our three blends that we have for milk. So right now we've got the home blend, strawberry cheesecake, and Lamington, and the recipes are the same for each of them. Could I make an ideal extraction for each coffee? Probably. But for my take on this is that not only does the customer experience need to be good in a coffee shop, the staff experience needs to be easy as well. So we have the same recipe, and it's just so easy for the staff to do. You can be on cruise control really, and you can have a better, like, we can operate with less staff. And like I truly believe that at our cafe we do the work of five people with three people, and we can kind of interact with customers a bit better as well. So we have that loud disco music playing, and you're getting a strawberry cheesecake latte, and it's really quick. It's that little bright spot to start your day.
Okay, can I ask the next question, Cole?
Yeah, I was sitting here waiting for you to ask the next question. You go ahead, Dave.
Kirk, you've been an entrepreneur in different facets, and having a physical cafe. Talk to us the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur, because you got a lot on your shoulders, man. You got the cafe, you got your social media presence. We got to talk about your former podcast and what we got some breaking news that we got to talk about. But first, talk to us about entrepreneurship.
Well, I don't even think of myself as an entrepreneur. Like I wouldn't say that I am, to be honest, because like I'm just a coffee obsessed guy that's trying to grow it. I'm kind of like,
you're an entrepreneur, man. Come on.
Well, I'm like to coffee what like a Jehovah's Witness is to Christianity. Like I'm just trying to spread the word. I'm like a coffee Jehovah's Witness. So like I literally am just there, just in people's faces, like coffee. So like everywhere you go, I'm trying to be there. So but like there's a considerable amount of stress. I work like 70 hours a week. I'm pretty regularly at the shop, 6 a.m. Like I start my shift then, but I always get there early. And one thing I've started doing recently is like we've got a lot of Australia's got a lot of. I'm probably being a bit too generous with my time, but Australia's got a lot of working holiday makers, and they come here from like countries like Korea and Japan to learn coffee. And I find myself volunteering my time to teach people coffee in the mornings now. I invite them to dial-ins. So like I can't give them a job, so that's my like act of service. But yeah, the pressure, like there's a lot, and like I do feel a responsibility to the staff, and like I do want to make money. But in terms of like entrepreneurship, I guess like what's aided me is it's not like I'm just trying to develop something to make myself money. That's not my modus operandi. It's like I want to build this thing that's like serving the coffee industry and kind of pays homage to, like I was saying before, like my mum and myself and there's so many things that happen that you don't expect to happen. Like it's almost like I need to allow myself time for things that would just fuck up or come at me out of the blue or some invoice. So like I always expect drama now, and I used to not be able to cope with it as easy as I do now. Now it's just like, some machine's broken, got to get it fixed. It's going to cost a lot of money. And like, you just got to deal with it. Like it's, I'm not like, I don't always deal with it greatly, but like, I guess I am maturing slowly. But like I said, I don't think of myself as an entrepreneur. I'm more like a coffee Jehovah's Witness.
Okay, let's transition. You're opening a new store. Actually, we got to talk about the podcast. So okay. What you were on? It's Just Coffee, mm-hmm. And you guys, we were just on there a couple weeks ago, and then you said there's mm-hmm. some breaking news. So maybe we'll give you the floor to tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so I guess it might be a shock to people, but I'm actually leaving the It's Just Coffee podcast, and so I mean, the relationship's still good between me and the guys, but basically we've got a bit of a commercial disagreement, let's just say. And sometimes in life things just happen, and the best thing is to just move on. And, you know, I've kind of made the decision. It's my choice, and I'm going to do my own thing. I've had my own podcast before called Sub-Zero Coffee, and and I've got we haven't really got a name yet for my next one, but I'm working on that, to be determined. But yeah, I'm really excited. Obviously, it's a little bit sad. I just checked my Instagram before I came on here, and I saw the Sprudge Awards announced, and like It's Just Coffee's one of the finalists. I'm like, oh shit! I'm making this decision when we've just been to Dubai and we just made it on there, and it's like, oh, that's great, and I'm really proud of what I've done there because I booked every guest and produced every episode. So like I'm really proud of the work that I've done there. So, but like sometimes in life you just got to make decisions that best suit yourself, and that's what I'm doing. And no animosity from me to them, and none from them to me either. So, but sometimes you just got to go do your thing, and that's what I'm doing.
Nice, man. Well, proud of you, and being able to identify that it's not the right situation or right opportunity for you, and look forward to what comes of future endeavors.
Having said that, awesome opportunity for me, and I've learnt a lot, and I still like those guys, and I got to interview all the people that I wanted to interview, and I got to do things like go to Dubai, and I've learnt so much from them. So it's like, in life, I think one thing I've learned, particularly from sales, is like, don't burn your bridges, because like you never know, how things eventuate and stuff like that. And those guys, I've got a lot to thank them for, to be honest. So
Who was your top guest? What was the best interview?
Oh, well, not including yourselves, of course.
No. We saw the views.
I really liked having Matt Perger on, because obviously it's been a few years since he has done anything publicly. And I think for him to kind of come back into the spotlight a bit more and trust me to sort of interview him as well was a big thing. Oh, gosh. I mean, having Wilfred Lamastus on in Dubai was awesome. I think, I've always worshipped the ground that guy's walked on. So having him on the podcast was truly exceptional. And we've done so many podcasts now, it's kind of hard to remember who's been on. Have you guys listened to any?
I listened to Perger's. It was really good. Super interesting on AI and the future of coffee, and his whole view on things was good. And he was able to kind of break it down for like the average person and then go deep for the AI enthusiasts. So.
Well, he's someone that's like so gifted that he shouldn't be confined to just coffee. Like, he's so smart and talented. It kind of blows my mind. So yeah, that was definitely an awesome podcast. There's a guy called Ross Quayle, actually, he's just moved on from being at Hemro, who produced Malconic grinders and things like that. He's just one of the smartest guys that I've ever met, and he's also a great interview and cheeky guy. So yeah, he's another one that I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, we'll miss you. We'll miss you on that podcast, but we're excited to see kind of what you're doing next. And I think more podcasts in our industry is needed. We need more kind of like talking heads, more people saying things about the industry. I think we're kind of missing that a little bit right now. And I think the more that we can all add to that, the better it is.
But you see, out there. The thing about coffee and podcasting and media and stuff like that is that coffee for the last few years, it's really been in its infancy as an industry. So, and I think the boom of coffee is, to be honest, just about to start, because so many more people are getting into it in the mainstream. You look at me right now, I've got the Big Face shirt on, and that's from Jimmy Butler, the basketballer. He's just started a coffee brand. I think that's going quite well. And I think, honestly, the global demand for coffee is just growing. Like, you look at the C price right now, obviously there's weather conditions that have affected production, but also just global demand is really high. Businesses like Coles will probably explode. And there's never really been a more exciting time to be in the coffee industry, in my opinion. so much innovation about to happen, so many challenges that will come but will solve. And to me, like the best years of coffee are well and truly ahead of us. And there's so much like good stuff to happen. Right now, this weekend, there's going to be the Formula One Grand Prix in Melbourne, and it's sold out in seconds. And what they did was they had that series on Netflix, Drive to Survive. And so all this media that can kind of unpack what Formula One's all about. And so obviously it's not just watching the sport that people enjoy, it's the theatrics of it as well. And whenever NFL free agency's on or NBA free agency's on, to me that's like almost more exciting than the season itself. So like, yeah, having that good media behind it, and you guys doing this, and obviously when I go on to do my thing, and there's so much more I want to do in the competition space as well regarding media. That's all going to be so important in the future for growing our industry and what we do.
100%. We need to lean into that. And I think, I've been in the industry 15 years. Dave hears me say this all the time. We've come a long way, and we've got a long way to go, right? Like the growth, the strides, the development that we've seen in the industry in 15 years is a long time in my life, a short time in the grand scheme of an industry. But the changes that have been made, the way we do things, the systems, the quality of coffee, the technology that is now utilized, like we've come such a long way. And oh my goodness, are we still a juvenile industry? And we just have so much more to do in terms of maturing, and in terms of better communicating, and in terms of just growing up and figuring out how we do take our product to the masses, if it is for the masses. I'm not sure specialty coffee is truly for the masses, but we have such a long way to go in the world of coffee that I think it's exciting every day. And I agree with you 100%. We got to lean in more to media, lean in more to talking heads, like Dave said, and just lean in. It's the right time to keep bringing the energy in and fueling the fire here in the coffee world.
But I would add to that, like we were both just in Dubai, right? And there, like I was talking to the organizers about that, and they were saying, yeah, we really want to bring World of Coffee back. In a country like that, the government just throws money at it. Like they just to do it, but they've got the competitive nature where it's like, we want to be hosting the world-class coffee events so that we're recognized for having a world-class coffee industry. And it's working, by the way. But the same thing's happening in Indonesia in May. So the World of Coffee is going to Jakarta. They campaigned hard there, and I've been talking with some of the organizers about going there and doing some media, and we're going to go to some of the coffee farms and stuff like that beforehand. And there's countries that are just fighting and campaigning to promote their coffee industry. And unfortunately in Australia, the government and the population kind of like to crow on about, oh, we got the greatest coffee industry, but they don't really do that much to promote it and support it like these other countries are doing. And I think, you look at the Indonesians, the Saudis, the countries in Asia, and people in the Emirates, I think they're just going to continue to excel because they want to promote their domestic coffee industry. So to me, it's already beginning that next step for coffee.
We've focused on cafe culture so much in our parts of the world, but in other parts, they're thinking about like the whole system as a whole and their passion for different parts of it being, brewing or the cafe experience or at the farm level. And as like what we're slowly trying to do is like, especially in North America, people have no idea how coffee is produced. They have no idea how hard it is. I'm trying to share that as much as possible, but in digestible, easy formats, and not like we used to do earlier in the industry was talking down. It's like, no, come with us and let's go on a journey together, talking about that as much as possible. And I think shops like yours, like what you're doing, I think you're pushing the envelope, man, like changing the recipes, leaning into co-ferments and like surprising the average customer with something very unique is like hard now. It's like hard to do. And so those type of things get customers talking and gets like the industry. We've talked about it internally here that what you're doing is like, should we be doing that? And I think you're just, yeah, you're leading the way in ways maybe you don't quite see, or you do. But I think like you said, we got so much runway. The industry's so young. There's tons of energy in it. It's only going to get better.
Experiment with some things and try some other things. Like Ben Put said on the podcast that we did, he's like, not enough people are experimenting with recipes. And it's like, yeah, no. When you're working within a big company, sometimes there's standards you have to follow, and there's good reasons for that. But in your own time, you should be able to experiment and maybe implement a greater change within what you're doing. And for us, like with the way that we make coffee, it's not like we just updosed and it magically worked. We had to work with Axel to get it roasted to a certain degree and all those sorts of things. And we will lose money to get that result. And eventually we did. And we're still evolving it now. So like one thing that we're doing is I want to put my price up. So currently we're $5.50 for an 8-ounce flat white Australian, which I think is too cheap. But for me by the end of the year, I want to be about $6.50, maybe $7. So what we're doing is we're finding anaerobic coffees to blend in our blend. So have like 25% of an anaerobic in our blend. We're in it to 33, and we're getting like an even funkier lot. So in my mind, it's like when you come to get a coffee at my shop, it's going to taste noticeably different from all the others surrounding it. And all we do is coffee. We don't do breakfast food and stuff like that. So like there's room for us to specialize in that. So, I mean, there's room to be doing things differently and challenging yourself in coffee. And if anyone's listening to this in a shop in whatever part of the world, try it.
I'm going to try it here right now.
Do it, Cole. Do it. What's the goal with Forward Coffee now? So you're launching soon? And
you know what, Kirk? That's a great question. What is the goal?
I just sent communication yesterday, at least my time yesterday. You got to sign up to the email newsletter if you want to see that communication, forward.coffee. I have been in Panama for about a month, and my goal is to cup as much coffee as possible, write a professional note surrounding that coffee, and essentially act as a broker or sourcing as a service. You can either think of it as one way or the other. I will have an inventory that's available online at any given time that will get updated, I think weekly. I would assume weekly. And I will also take specific requests for, I need X quantity of Y quality at Z price. And I'll try to seek that sort of coffee out for clients. And what I've discovered so far, I've cupped on my spreadsheet, I have 530 coffees that I've evaluated so far. I would assume I'm probably top 5 cuppers in all of Panama in terms of quantity of coffees. And I've, brought that list down to maybe 50 coffees that I've expressed interest in, and I have credit terms with each of the different groups I've kept with, so I can reserve these coffees, and then I'm marketing them out to buyers. And my goal is to break through the hierarchical system that Panama is in terms of buying, where you either need to be a popular company, you need to be a competitor, you need to be, very big money. You need to be one of these things to sort of hit the mark and be able to get invited into, not just into the room, but to be invited to taste the stuff you want to taste. And the experience can be very tough. It can be tough to find your footing. It can be very toxic in certain cases. And the business side of it is not so sophisticated. As an example, today is Friday. Last Friday, I tasted some coffees. I spent 3 hours with a group. I won't say any brands or whatever, but I spent 3 hours with a group. We tasted 2 tables of coffees. I expressed interest in them in the moment. I like this one, and that one. Can you tell me prices and quantities? And then they built the prices based on my scores, which That's obviously not cool. They grabbed prices out of the air based on how I'm scoring the coffee, not based on a price list. And a week later, I still don't have the quantities. And they've probably hosted 4 or 5 other groups that have probably tasted the same coffees. And now it's going to be either a roll of the dice or pick who do we prefer to have this coffee, and that's a toxic experience for somebody who's coming here for 5 or 6 days, which most people are here kind of that amount of time. To have that experience happen is quite a turnoff. And then they turn around and say they don't like Panama. They don't like Panama coffee. What they cupped over here is not good. Well, what they cupped over here is not the full spectrum of the portfolio. You've mentioned Wilfred Lamastus a bunch of times. I've cupped 60 of their coffees. Esmeralda, I've cupped 85. Jansen, maybe 70. And it's like, I'm getting exposure to this stuff, but also this stuff down here. And there is a lot of this stuff down here. And I'm trying to bring that into visibility for producers here to add value to them. I can help them sell. For buyers around the world that can't justify the trip, I can bring the coffee to them in an easy platform, easy style.
And when you're saying here and here, you're saying quality. If someone's not watching, so quality that's
sorry. So we think Panama is only known for top quality coffee. That's the marketing. It's only top quality coffees in Panama. And realistically, there's a lot of 82s, 83s, 84s, and like volume value coffees. I cupped some coffee the other day, and Dave, I haven't said this to you. I cupped this yesterday. $4 a pound. Like, it's market price. There's numerous containers of volume of this coffee that exist here, but nobody really talks about these coffees because they don't want to promote those. They want to promote I sold this kilo for $7,000, $10,000. And that's what we hear about. But in reality, no different to our roasting businesses, no different to our cafes. It's like the lower stuff on the pyramid is paying the bills and generating the ability to do that top tier stuff. We just don't find as much pride in talking about, what's happening at the bottom, if that makes sense. So, Kirk, that's a bit of a long-winded way of answering your question, but essentially Forward is now a broker, I think is the right language, a broker in Panama. So I am not buying, I am tasting, marketing, getting a sale, and then turning around and buying it from the producer. And I'm connecting client to seller.
Or you're like a coffee hunter where I give you a profile and say I want something that's very floral and fruity and naturally processed, and then I can spend this amount, and then you go and find that coffee for me.
Yeah, I'm a level 85 coffee hunter.
Can I just dedicate like 2 minutes to just fucking roast Australian internet? Can I do that? All right. So Elon Musk just posted a tweet about the national broadband network here costing like $6,000 to install at each house when you can just buy like a little Starlink radar. Apparently Kenya has better quality internet than Australia. We cannot do infrastructure right here. For all of our things that we try and do, infrastructure is just not one of them. We're like supposedly one of the most developed countries in the world, but I'm doing this off my phone. Goddamn. So I don't even have to. Anyway, but
that's
I know
commitment.
You guys got to go.
Come on, people, that's commitment.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah, and I had to download this app for the program that you're using real quickly as well. So, hence, using my Australian quality internet. My bad. Look, can we just wrap this up properly? I didn't want to end on that note, but if I can, I wanted to shout out 2 people before I go.
Of course.
It says this guy I follow on Instagram in Nashville, Tennessee. His name's he calls himself Engineered by Connor. You should follow him. He's like the world's biggest coffee nerd. If ever I'm like trying to get information on something, I'll look at his posts and I'm like, all right, I'll learn stuff. So I'll probably just learn a lot from him. The other one is Mason Salisbury. I think he calls himself I Brew Coffee on Instagram. Do you guys follow him? He's got a business called Luminous Coffee. Anyway, I follow his epic rants on Instagram. Like they're long rants that go on his Instagram stories. And I don't always agree with what he says, but god damn, his rants are good. And a lot of the stuff I do agree with. He looks like he's truly obsessed with his work and works tirelessly. But man, follow iBrew Coffee and like get along for his Instagram rants. They're epic.
Great way to end the show.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I'm so sorry about the dip in my Instagram. I'm gonna go find whoever's at the providing company and just absolutely whip them with a whip mercilessly until I can do an hour and a half podcast like level of bandwidth. You know what I mean?
It's all good, buddy. It's all good.
It's all good. No problem. No problem. Kirk, where can people find you online should somebody feel inspired to reach out after this?
Well, my Instagram handle is @cap_n_Kirk7. Project Zero Coffee is my business. You'll be able to follow a soon-to-be-determined Instagram page handle for the podcast that I'm starting. Thank you guys so much for helping promote that. And that will be my socials.
Love it. Amazing. Kirk, thanks for being on the show, man.
No, thanks so much for having me. It's so exciting to be asked on a podcast rather than do all the asking to go on a podcast. You know what I mean?
No, it's been awesome having you on. Your energy on the podcast, your energy in the industry, it's very much appreciated, and we are grateful to have you as a friend, buddy. So thank you so much.
Well, to David, thank you so much for hosting this podcast and doing all the great things you do. Really appreciate you. Your haircut looks great. You're clearly the professional on the podcast. And Cole, good luck treating the pink eye.
I knew where that was going, man. I knew where that was going. I actually cut your internet off.
No, we're keeping
I found your internet provider.
Thanks, buddy.
And I cut your internet off. That was me.
Yeah, we appreciate all the fine things you've said.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks again, guys. And you have a wonderful day.
Ciao.
You too.
All the best.
Take care, buddy.